So here's a little story. I had no idea that this was a story until today when I heard someone make reference to it, or I read someone make reference to it online, and I decided to look it up. And sure enough, here it is. This is from 2 years ago, um, and it concerns the current embattled, correctly embattled Mr. Fancy Socks, as as one of the demonstrators in Ottawa hilariously called him, the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Okay, so as you can see, the title of the story is Trudeau's West Grey accuser was much younger than first thought. Now, this makes reference to a previous article in the Buffalo Chronicle, this news site. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to stick with this particular article because pretty much everything you get from the earlier article you get from this one and more. So I'll just read a little bit of it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll leave the link to those of you who want to peruse the entire story. And again, this is from 2 years ago, well before all of this imbroglio, all of this kerfuffle that's going on right now. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's underage accuser was much younger at the time of their relationship than first thought. Her father tells the Chronicle. That's the name of this publication, the Buffalo Chronicle. Some in the public discourse peg the accuser at 17 years old. That is inaccurate. She was much, much younger than that, the wealthy Canadian businessman told the Chronicle yesterday. He was not a party to the $2.25 million mutual non-disclosure, non-disparagement agreement that she signed in exchange for her continued silence on the Wednesday evening of April 9th. So I believe that's probably April 9th, 2019. I'm thinking. That's since this is reading is 2 years ago. The terms of that agreement prevent both the accuser and Trudeau from acknowledging any aspect of that relationship without triggering a 6 to 7 figure liquidated damage clause. That penalty starts at 500,000, scales up depending on the magnitude of the breach. So, according to, I'll read a little bit more here, just so you can get the rest of the story. The accuser's father shared with the Chronicle a password-protected digital copy of that agreement, giving us limited access to it for several hours, on the condition we would make no copies and not distribute. Doing so would have jeopardized the terms of the agreement. So, all right. So according to the father of the accuser, who was a student at this school that where Trudeau taught at around the turn of the century, around the year 2000, which is when this this, what do we call it, affair was supposedly took place between Trudeau and this underage girl who was a student at the school. According to this story, I'm not saying it's true, but I'm just saying that's what is claimed here. So they signed a non-disclosure agreement. He paid out $2.5 million, but the non-disclosure agreement supposedly only concerns Justin Trudeau and the accuser. It does not concern the father. It does not involve the father, according to what he's saying here. The father, does not believe his discussion of that agreement's existence is a violation of its terms, since he was not a party to it. He did not acquire the document from his daughter. This is funny. It was incorrectly CC'd to him on an email between the negotiating parties. Way to go, guys. You're so smooth. I mean, we give these we give the power clack, we give the so-called elites so much credit, but they can certainly be bumbling on many an occasion, and this seems to be one of them. They accidentally CC'd the document to him, to the father, and he's not covered in the agreement. He can talk about it, but the accuser can't, and Trudeau can't. So the two engaged in a long and steamy affair on and off campus. I don't know if do you call it an affair if we're talking about a girl who's well younger than 17, which is what we read in the first paragraph. That was sort of the lead of this whole thing. Is it called an affair or is it called abuse? I don't know. Interesting, though. Not saying this is true, but if it is true, it seems to be the malady of the proclivity of the ruling class, doesn't it? Time and time and time again, it's the same old thing. So the two engaged in a long and steamy affair. I don't know about the appropriateness of that word, again, for the reasons I just stated, both on and off campus while Trudeau taught drama and French at Vancouver's prestigious West Point Grey Academy. He was discovered by his accuser's father at their family home. Whoa. And since this is Canada, he probably didn't have a gun. Otherwise, it might have been bye-bye Trudeau that night. I mean, who knows? If that man were a red-blooded father and saw his underage daughter with this guy in a compromising position in their home, I can only imagine. Anyway. So this prompted private demands to school administrators that he be removed from his position immediately. There was a small settlement at the time, he says. Sorry, I guess I am more or less reading this article, but this is all... I'm trying to skip over the filler, but there hasn't been much filler yet. This is all pretty... this is the meat of the story. The relationship was discovered several months after Pierre Trudeau's death. He died on September 28th. Was eulogized by his son on October 3rd. Now we're getting to a little more filler. So at the time, the family was told the school's standard employment agreement included confidentiality terms that would be binding on Trudeau after his departure. So he left in a hurry with no real explanation. And the school says that as a matter of policy, it does not comment on personnel matters. Trudeau's friends at the time said that the typically outgoing and exuberant young man was suffering through a bout of depression following his father's death in 2000 and his brother's death in 1997. Okay, I mean, it's sad. I'll give this to him. It's sad to have your father die. It's sad to have your brother die. That doesn't mean you get to abuse an underage teenager who's a student at your school. That's not the appropriate response to grieving over your father and your brother's deaths. They postulate that anything improper was likely a result of his fragile emotional state at the time, not because of any nefarious character trait. He was lonely and depressed for months, one friend told the Chronicle. Give me a break. That's how they're trying to excuse this? Man. Anything to save? I mean, when you're one rule for a Trudeau, another for the common man, right? You or I, if we'd been caught up in something like this, we'd be in prison, and with good reason. So I want to. So again, this is something interesting that's at the end of this article. For those who would dispute that this is true or not, and I don't know whether or not it's true. I'm just saying. I'm just reporting on what's spoken of in this story. To date, Trudeau has not offered a public denial of the Buffalo Chronicle's reporting. Instead, he has instructed his communications staffers to decline to answer these questions and to attack the credibility of this publication. The Buffalo Chronicle has never, in our entire operating history, been sued for defamation or any other matter. We have never once received a cease and desist letter from the subjects of any article since we began publishing in 2014, and we have not received such a cease and desist order from Mr. Trudeau. There he is. Mr. Fancy Socks. Smiling somewhat pervily there, I must say. Anyway. That's to me again, just like other similar stories of people who talk about someone really, really powerful doing something really, really terrible, and they go on the record. They write a book about it. They put it in some news publication or it turns up somewhere. If it's not true, then don't you think the rich and powerful individual is going to just sue the living shit out of the person who claims that this is true? If it didn't happen, if it's libel, if it's slander, then what reason would there be not to sue the shit out of them? I mean, you're Justin Trudeau, you're any Trudeau, you've got lawyers at your disposal, left and right. If somebody's just making this up about you, you send your lawyers out and you take these people down who are slandering your good name, claiming you sexually abused an underage girl while you were a teacher at her school. But this has not happened. They haven't been sued, and they haven't received a cease and desist letter for the subjects of that article. Some of you will come up with some, I don't know. Some of you will still say that you think it's probably a lie. And I don't know. Again, I don't know whether it's a lie or not. I don't know whether the story is true. But I do think it's pretty strange whenever somebody who's incredibly powerful has something like this come out about them, and instead of just attacking the person, under the law, sending your team of lawyers out to get a scalp or two for this liar, this person who's made up this terrible story about you and dragged your name through the mud. Instead, you just ignore it. You just let it go, and don't challenge it legally. I think that's indicative of guilt, but that's just me. Thanks for watching.